Hello friends, today we are going to look at a vintage JMI Vox AC30. We're on the road, got my phone here with me, and yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect. This will be my first AC30 ever if it works out. And yeah, I'm just super excited, a little nervous, and I'm just gonna take you guys along for the ride with me. I'm not sure if the owner is gonna be cool with me filming or not, but either way, you guys will see a little bit of the before and after, and hopefully I'll have an AC30 to show. This will actually be a video versus me just talking to my phone, only to be deleted in no time. So, all right, see you guys in a bit. Boy, that was a long trip. It is now, geez, like 11 o'clock at night. Finally home here with the amp. Things did not go exactly according to plan. There's definitely some things to cover, but regardless, I decided to go ahead and move forward with the deal anyways. We'll see if that was a mistake or not, but either way, here she is at home. So this is my new JMI Vox. It's gonna need a lot of love. So, well, I'm off to bed, and then that's a tomorrow problem. So, see you guys in a bit, I guess. We're back on the road, folks. And yeah, sometimes things like this just happen. There's another JMI Vox AC30, another copper top 63 that is local. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and look at it. So it's very different from the other one I picked up in some ways, the same in other ways. So yeah, there's a rhyme and reason behind this, which I will explain later, assuming everything goes through as planned. But yeah, we're on the road for another Vox AC30. Crazy, never thought anything like this would ever happen. And yeah, here we are. So we got about an hour drive in front of us, and fingers crossed we get there, everything is straight. All right, guys, we're in a little rehearsal space. Got to check out the amp. Here it is. Another copper panel. Super excited. More details on it in a bit, but I'm gonna get it loaded up and drive home. And here we are. I am still in absolute shock. I cannot believe this. I've got not one, but two JMI Vox AC30s in front of me. I own both. It is absolutely mind-blowing. And one of them is a super twin, a head and cab, which I have been after for a very long time. And I honestly never thought I would see one, certainly not local, but just I never thought I would own one. So I am just incredibly excited, but there is a ton of work ahead. And yeah, this is going to serve as kind of the start of a new series where I dive into both amps and really see what's what, and hopefully get them up and running and giggable, because I want a vintage AC30 to gig with. That is the goal here. So as you can see, very different looking amps on the exterior here. This is a smooth Tolex. This has got the rougher Tolex. They were both sold to me as 63s, so we will have to dig into that. I've got a lot to learn about vintage Voxes. I actually own a 1964 Vox AC10 Super Twin, but yeah, that is a different beast compared to these two. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the camera and give you guys a couple little nice B-roll shots of both amps to kind of show the current condition they're in. And then, yeah, I gotta decide which one I wanna open up on the workbench first, and hopefully we don't find too many issues. But either way, I'm super excited to begin this series. So let's do it now. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the Vox AC30 Super Twin. Now this is a dream amp of mine, and I'm still pinching myself that I own it, though as you will see, it is a bit of a basket case and will need some love. So just looking at it on the front here, the grill cloth is aged quite a bit. You can see the outline of the speakers of the baffle with kind of the line going down in the middle of the speakers. Very iconic for the era. I believe that is the original logo there. And then we go up here to the head. Similar aging. The color looks basically identical between the head and the cab. But you'll notice the logo is missing. That actually came off when I was trying to see if it was actually in there properly or glued on, and it was glued on. and you'll be able to see it's actually, you can see like somebody clipped or snipped or broke off the ends of the original logo in there. So that's something we will have to address, but that's what it looks like from this angle. Let's go ahead and check it out from the top. So you can see it's got the protective corners here, the brass vents, which have aged actually quite a bit, but they are brass. You'll see they look very different than the other set and the other amp as well. Go ahead and grab one out. You can see they are brass. And then obviously you'll notice that it's got a fender handle on it. And here is the copper top. Beautiful. I love how these age differently. You'll see that on the other one. This is a bit more orange. So some other things to note here. Obviously, this selector switch for the different voltages has been removed. It's just got kind of a plate there. Let's go around to the other side. Get a better view. You'll also notice the rougher Tolex on this. When you see the other one, you'll notice how it's much smoother. Overall, the plate looks pretty good. It's got, you know, just a little bit of aging and marks on it, but that is to be expected. And there you go. There's your 6 inputs. So let's go ahead and flip the head and cab around so you can see the other side of them in the light. But first, I'll just go back so you can see it. I mean, come on. It looks so good. Gosh, I'm so stoked to have a head and cab AC30. That's been a dream. And I will explain more why as we go along, but I mean, just look at it. All right, so let's go ahead and flip it around. Before I do flip it around, I just wanted to show that it came to me missing a handle, but it does have the loops. Whether those are original or not, I am not sure, but you can see the texture again. And the cab is in extremely good condition. The Tolex itself looks beautiful. All right, let's go ahead and flip it around. So probably the first thing you'll notice is that it is a closed back, which is super rad. Not all AC30 Super Twins were closed back. More on that later. You also notice I'm missing some screws, but I cheated a little bit. Normally I wait to do everything for the first time on video, but this video got delayed a little bit and I had to see what was in the cab. More on that later, but I've got most of the screws, so that's okay. And then going up to the head itself, you'll probably immediately notice this. What is that? Great question. I have no idea. It was not disclosed originally. I didn't know about it until I showed up to look at the amp, and we took the cover off, and it's pretty crude hole cut behind that. I have zero idea what was there. Something was mounted there. It's not a place where you would put a fan to, like, you know, keep the amp cool, so I have no idea. Again, more on that later. And then we can go ahead and see it does have a little added Topboost cutout, and this is not an original, you know, factory Topboost. How many of those were actually original? Very, very few. But this one is definitely not. And more on the history of this amp later. But the knobs do look original, or at least they look identical to all of the other knobs on the amp. Kind of this brown, like speckled black texture to them. Kind of interesting. Power cord, 3-prong, and then there's your speaker out. Not factory, at least I don't think so. And then just another view from the top. Beautiful JMI logo. See kind of the wear. Very common to see that. And you can see all that beautiful orange. So there you go. That is the AC30 Super Twin. So let's go ahead and switch over to the Combo. And here we have the Combo. Immediately you'll notice that the grill cloth looks very different. I have no idea if it's original or not. It's got kind of the the looseness that you see on originals. But yeah, I don't know enough to be able to tell. And then we'll get up to the Tolex here. You can see it is smooth and not textured like the other one. Get in the light so you can see it better. And then you can see the brass, which looks very different than the other. Still much more gold looking. This one's got what seems to be the original handles. And a better look at the cab here. All right, let's go over to the panel. So hopefully you'll be able to tell that it is a bit less copper orange. Still has the voltage selector. Fuse looks like it was swapped. Fuse holder. These knobs are more black. At least this one was swapped. Again, I don't know enough to be able to say if they're original or not. I'll have to figure that out later. But the biggest kind of ding on this one, there's two really, is this right here. Let's see if I can get that in the light. So this one had a switch added for the trem to be able to flip between the vibrato or the trem. And so they drilled a hole into the chassis to put a switch there. I have no idea why you do that. It seems really dumb. But it was removed and kind of patched so you don't see through to the chassis. I don't know if you'll be able to tell or not. But otherwise, same sort of deal. So let's go ahead and flip this around so you can see the backside. All right, and here is the back of the combo. So this again is also a Topboost added model. You'll notice the card itself has a crack in it with some Marshall knobs not seated totally correctly. This one does have the serial plate on it. The other one, I don't know if you guys noticed, does not. Somebody scratched out the model number for some odd reason. And then I'll get another close-up of the plate from this side. And then the hole right here. And then to see really maybe the best part of this, we have to lay the amp down. Here we have maybe the best part of this amp, the speakers. So we've got JMI labeled Vox Alnico Blues from Celestion. Got the classic green and white speaker cables. And then they also have the, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, little 8-ohm stickers. And I don't believe I'll be able to get a clean shot of the speaker codes from here, but they are Pulsonic cones. Now this is what would have originally come with this amp as a 63. And then we'll dig into the cab of that one later. But yeah, this is kind of basically the main reason why I decided to explore this amp and purchase it. So with that, we've got the two JMI 1960s Vox AC30s. There's another good look at the difference in the grill cloths. So I think what we're going to do is go ahead and put the head on the workbench, because that one's got the most stories to tell, and that's the one I'm most excited about. So let's go ahead and do that now. All right, here is the Vox AC30 Super Twin on the workbench. Huge moment having a JMI on the workbench. I am extremely excited and very, very apprehensive and nervous about what we're going to find here. But I'm going to give you a quick backstory on this amp, a bit more detail, and then also kind of some of the things the previous owner told me. So first and foremost, I've been looking for an AC30 Super Twin for a while. Super Twin, so super means it is a head, and then twin means two speakers, basically. So Super Twin basically means a head and a 2x12 cab. And the reason I was really wanting one of those instead of a combo, AC30 from the JMI era, which is much, much more common, is because they are incredibly heavy amps. So I don't know if you've ever picked up an AC30, but they are not light. And really any 2x12 combo is borderline too heavy for actually taking out and using, at least for me. The only exception to that I would say would be my Blackface Pro Reverb, because it's actually not too heavy with the Jensen speakers in it. They're not too heavy. So that one's the most manageable 212 I've ever used, but anything beyond that is just too much realistically for me personally when it comes to gigging, and the end goal is to gig. So that's a little bit of context there. And I also think a Super Twin is way cooler. It's much more rare and just something you don't see very often. So cue this. I've been looking for, off and on for a long time for a Super Twin. And finally this, popped up on Craigslist of all places in LA. Now, this was originally listed as all original. And as we will learn as we kind of look at it a bit further, it is obviously nowhere near all original. So it took some back and forth with the previous owner, who's an extremely nice guy, and some very blurry photos for me to suss out exactly what is what with this amp, or at least as much as I could tell to feel confident and comfortable moving forward with a deal. So we will get into that as we open the chassis up, because I have not seen inside with my own two eyes yet, but I have seen some blurry photos that told me some things. So looking at here just real quick, obviously we've got a Fender Dogbone handle. That is not right. I have already purchased a replacement handle. This is from North Coast Music, which does all of the like authentic repro Vox stuff. So that will definitely be swapped on there. The knobs themselves, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to really tell what they look like. Let me try zooming in a little bit. So they've got this kind of speckled brown black look to them. They look very old. They look vintage, but I don't know if they are original or not. I'm gonna have to try and find some photos of some originals, see if they have anything close up enough to really be able to tell. But either way, they look original to the amp, but I don't know. So I defer to you guys on that. Now, this amp was sold to me as working, functioning. So I went and checked it out, and the Brilliant channel does in fact work, though it really has nothing kind of in this range here, and then all of a sudden it turns on. And we played it between here and noon, and it sounded awesome. It sounded really, really good, which really gave me a lot more confidence in purchasing the amp. Now, the normal channel also did work, similar kind of issues, wasn't obviously healthy, and the vibrato channel does not work at all. Zero signal from the guitar or the input jacks through the cab. So that's one thing that we're definitely going to figure out, is this channel does not work at all, and then these two channels definitely have some issues, noise issues, kind of crackling pots, the classic frying bacon sounds and pops and crackles. So lots of stuff to explore there. And then this looks like it was hardwired at one point, hopefully to the correct voltage, 115. So we'll need to look at that. I don't know what fuse is in it. We're gonna have to look at that. And the light did not turn on. So that's kind of my initial, where I'm at with the amp right now. Let's go ahead and flip it over. Let's do it on its back, or we'll go front forward here. Okay, so here we have the back, and this was kind of what we talked about earlier. This back plate is very crudely cut back here. I don't know what that is from. The Tolex looks and matches perfectly. So I don't know if this was original Tolex or if this is just a really good repro. It looks and feels old. The previous owner had no idea what this was done for. Now, he told me that he's owned this amp since, I believe he said the 80s, certainly a very long time. And he told me he actually purchased this from Mark Sampson of Matchless fame. So Mark Sampson was one of the original founders of Matchless, and I guess this was one of his amps. So he obviously is a Vox AC30 nut. That's kind of what he uses the blueprint for his Matchless DC and HC30s, which are probably his most famous models. And I guess the story goes that he, sourced a bunch of vintage Voxes, and this was one of them. And the previous owner knew Mark, to some degree, and you know, he told me stories about watching, you know, kind of Mark build these amps in the very beginning, and all sorts of cool stories off of that. Is that true? I don't know. Is there any way to prove it? Absolutely not. That doesn't affect the value, or, you know, didn't play into my purchase of this at all, but just something to note. And he did say, you know, Mark did things such as installing this Topboost card, so this is not factory. This was something that he did. So we will take a look at that and see what's what there. It does have a 3-prong, extremely short cable, so adding to the list of things to change. You know, we've got the handle already. This is definitely something we want to change to a much longer cable. And then the other thing I wanted to point out on the exterior, let's see if I can shift it over. So the feet are actually 2 different, you know, sets of feet stacked together, and it offers just like no grip at all, so it just slides on top of the cab, which is a bit sketchy. And this is like I said too, so I did buy some longer rubber feet that's just solid like that, and so we will be replacing the feet with this as well. Now when I looked at these, they actually say Vox on them, I believe. When I looked at them on the other side, I'll have to check that out. Not right now, but maybe later. So these feet look like they might be original Vox feet, but they were just stacked to be able to get over the handle. Maybe it was the replacement handle that was on the cab. Other things I wanted to note before we actually take the chassis off is the missing screws. So it's got one missing screw here, and then it's got some holes on the side here that I don't know what that's from. Same thing on the other side. I'm not sure if that's to hold this in or what. I have no experience with this kind of head, AC30 head, so I am just really in the dark there. Now, I have already preemptively reached out to, let me move it, Mojo Tone, to see about getting a new back panel made, and they're open to doing it and would just obviously need me to measure some things. So that is something that I am considering, just getting a new back plate here that doesn't have this weird hole in it. I'm not 100% on it. This is kind of part of the amp, and it actually looks pretty good, but TBD on that. And the other thing also is the missing serial and model number plate. And you can actually see the little holes right here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on camera, but it was here before. And then what's interesting to me is typically, you know, they would be in the middle, and then when people would do the cutout later for the Topboost, they would then shift it over. But I don't see any holes on this side to fit the serial number plate. There's only 4 holes, 2 here, 2 here. So I don't know what that means exactly, if maybe this plate was a replacement, or this back, this whole back part of the cab is a replacement, or if this was actually, you know, meant to be a Topboost, or was a factory swap where they did that, because normally the plate would be in the middle. So again, I defer to the historians, the Vox historians there, but just some other interesting thing I noted. And this speaker out is not factory. I believe they would have had a different connector, and it wouldn't have been here. Might have even been here. I'm not sure. I'm still very much learning with these amps. So, okay. The last thing I will do is let's go look at the front. All right, the last thing I wanted to point out here, you can see the grill cloth a bit closer up. Definitely got lots of vibe and wear to it, but it fits the cab and looks pretty cool in my opinion. But you'll notice there is what appears to be kind of something in these 2 spots that would have been the holes for the, I don't know if you can see that, for the emblem, and so that would have been inside there, and you can see the lines, the holes actually line up perfectly. This is a reproduction small logo. Yeah, so it lines up perfectly. It would have been right there originally, and this is what it came with, which looks like it's a much later logo. I've never seen one like that, but this immediately looks like it's 80s to me or something. It just does not look right, and it was actually glued. So I don't know if you can see that. So I was kind of, before I started this video, I just kind of wanted to see if I could see the little pins on it. And in doing so, it kind of just came off because it was glued. So this is trashed, and then this will also be part of it. We will be swapping this on eventually. So that covers all of that. Now let's go ahead and take the chassis out of the cab. So this back plate was held on by basically nothing. There's screws on it that just seem to spin freely. So we got to figure that out for sure. So we've got this here. You can see the very crude hole from the other side cut out with kind of these weird jagged marks to it. So I have no idea what this was for, but you can see kind of what is behind that. You can see the top boost hole here. Now, what you can't see in this corner is a speaker jack, and that lead, those leads are obviously in the way of me removing this. So I'm gonna go ahead and just remove the jack itself and just let that hang. All right, so we got the speaker jack out. Now these screws that are left in it, these two and these two, were not really seeming to be attached to anything. You can see that we got nuts on the back end. So I don't know what the purpose of those were. So we'll have to investigate that a bit more. But yeah, they were not holding anything at all, and we're just kind of free spinning. So let's go ahead and put this to the side. So with the chassis out, let's go ahead and just look at the cab real quick. See if there's anything noteworthy inside here. I'm not seeing anything that really stands out. I don't see any really identifier pen marks or anything like you will see in fender cabs. Just definitely needs a clean, lots of little petrified spider webs and whatnot. And then the spot where the logo goes, I don't see anything poking out on this end, which tells me it doesn't go that deep, and we should be able to just drill out those two pins that are stuck in there to install the correct logo on. So that looks good. Here looks a bit stripped out, but there is a metal thread. You won't be able to see that. Let me slide it down. So that looks beat up, but there is some kind of thing in there to catch metal threads. So that's fine. It doesn't look like there's anything else other than this, and then the same one on the other side that's supposed to hold in the chassis, or not the chassis, excuse me, the back plate for this. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's factory correct or not. So we'll have to do some experimenting / exploring there. But either way, this looks good, and we can go ahead and get that out of the way. And here she is in all her glory. On the backer board still. So let's just go ahead and see what we got. Let's do some assessments. Here's the speaker cable. That was obviously not factory. Looks like we've got the gray cable for what would have been the foot switch for the trem. I don't know if somebody stole the egg or what happened there, but that's what that appears to be. Transformers, I'll get into that in a second. Let's go ahead and see what tubes are in it, because I don't know. I see no markings. Yep, none of these have any markings. So some no-name EL84s. The rectifier is a Ruby branded 5AR4C. Preamp tubes, let's see what we got. That's a Ruby. Pinnacle, I've never heard of that before. There's a GE 5963. I've never heard of that code before. 50, 48, 188, 21, and then 5963 right there. No idea what that is. Nor do I know what this position in an AC30 calls for. So it's like a national 12AX7. Never seen that before. This is all over the place, which I'm honestly not surprised at all. And another national ECC83. Okay, so a very much a mishmash of tubes, probably not the best quality, some no-name EL84s. Now, all of that is actually encouraging to me because I played it in the Brilliant channel and it sounds so good. It really sounded excellent. So, you know, that tells me there's room for improvement still. This is going to be an absolutely amazing amp. Now, what do I want to do next? Okay, there's a lot to take in here. So we're going to start from left to right and just kind of go through what I notice immediately. And then we'll kind of have to do much deeper digging in to kind of see what's what here. But we're just going to start from this side and move over. So the first thing I notice, I'm kind of blocking the light so you can see it, is it's got a stamp here that says, looks like Westrex, W-E-S-T-R-E-X, treble. So this appears to be a treble model. So these would come in normal, treble, and bass, and this is a treble. So I don't really, from what I understand, I think it's just like a couple cap values, or maybe even just one that changes between the different models. So that's not a huge deal either way. I don't know if, you know, treble is more desirable or not than the other models, but that's what it is. We can see we're not using both of the outputs here for the different cab ohm ratings, the impedance. So I'm assuming, actually I have no idea. So this is, I'm not sure if this is the 8 ohm tap or the 16 ohm tap. So I'll have to figure that out. And then definitely I want to figure out a way to give me the option to use either, because I have cabs that fit both, including a 412 Marshall cab that is 16 ohm. That would be really cool to play this through. So continuing on, let me zoom in just a bit. We see a lot of WEMA caps. Now these are all original as far as I can tell. So that is interesting. Lots and lots of caps here. This is a model with the carbon comps. Now other kind of AC30s from this era, you'll also see them with carbon film. And I have personally seen a couple of those copper tops that have carbon film. This is all carbon comps. We see a lot of original carbon comps and a couple replacements. This one, this 220K is a replacement. I see a lot of the original kind of QC little paint markers here to see if anybody's worked on those solder joints. So you can see this one was replaced and this one was replaced, missing the paint there. So those carbon comps, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that great, but I will do more close-ups and you'll see much more detail as we get going on this project. Then obviously we've got this, you know, the Topboost card added here. And it's got, what is this? Looks like a Bremar 12AX7, I believe. That's a good tube. Now I will do close-ups to show the back of the card. I don't see how the card mounts, to be honest, because there's no screw holding it here and there's no screw holding it here. So I'm not sure if it's just friction fit. Yeah, it seems to just be friction fit. So that's another thing we would want to rectify, is putting a hole through this in the chassis so it's mounted properly. So as the story goes, this was all built out by Mark Sampson. Again, that doesn't mean anything to me, good or bad. It just is what I was told. Looking at the pots, they look all original. All of this stuff here, the inputs look original and untouched. I see paint on every solder joint. The bus wire looks original. These shielded cable leads for the Topboost, as far as I can tell, yep, for the Topboost. This one's got some electrical tape on it, so I don't know what's going on there, but it's tied to a resistor. Looks like a 220K. Another one of those really gross looking caps right here. The pots do look all original to me as far as I can tell. Except for maybe this last one here. It's hard to, it looks different than the others, but I'll do close-ups and you guys can tell me. And then yeah, I see lots and lots of original resistors and a couple of replacements here and there. But the replacements look like good quality parts. More WEMA caps. Lots and lots of WEMA caps here. This looks largely untouched. And then a replaced resistor here and here. And then we see there are some caps that have been swapped. So this is a 450 volt 33 microfarad cap. running to right here. Now I do have access to a schematic for this amp, I just don't have it in front of me. So we'll have to figure out what's going on. And then there are two other caps that are kind of hidden back here. These are dual 10 microfarad 450 volt caps below there. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. And then we see here, so I mentioned before that the actual voltage selector is removed and replaced with just a plate. And we can see these two leads. These are coming off the power transformer, and I see on a piece of tape here, you won't be able to read that, but it shows the different voltages for the different colors. It says brown is the 110 to 120. So, okay, I'm fairly okay with what I see here. You know, it's not horrific as far as I can tell. There's lots of original parts, so there's chance for lots of little replacements, but you know, swapping resistors is no big deal. Swapping, you know, some coupling caps or bypass caps is no big deal. And we'll probably swap the main electrolytics and figure out what we want to do there. Now the light did not work, but there's a bulb in here, so we'll have to get a replacement bulb. And we can see all the other taps sectioned off there. Now you'll also notice that this screw is significantly longer than this one here. Now that makes sense because this one can't be long, but I'm not sure if this is original or not. So just another thing I'm noting. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with what I see in here. Everything looks pretty good. It doesn't look completely hacked and mangled. Lots of original caps and parts. So I'm just going to grab the camera and get some B-roll shots for you guys, and then we will probably take the back off and take a look at what's hiding underneath. So I was able to remove the Topboost card to be able to take a look at what it is exactly. Very nice Brimar tube there. See some of the work done. I'm coming at this totally blind, so I don't really know what to make of all of this stuff. But there it is for everyone to see. Now this has a U cutout. Now this was like actually made pretty well. You can see it's welded piece of metal, and they cut this U out, and then there's a hole in the chassis and the board right here, and that is where, you know, presumably you would have a screw and it would lock this side in here. So that was kind of the whole purpose or plan, but at some point that screw is lost, and so this was just kind of laying on everything. But now we can see, with it out of the way, we can see some additional replaced resistors here with some carbon films, and then more originals, and then again more WEMA caps everywhere. So everything looks pretty good overall, but definitely there's some stuff that needs to be addressed here. So go ahead and put this back. Okay, now let's go ahead and touch on the elephant in the room here, and that would be the transformers. So again, this amp was listed as all original, and when I got some photos of the inside, there were a couple red flags, and one of them was this power transformer. Now, the hard part about these Vox amps from this era is, unlike a Fender amp, which would have on the transformers a very clear date code, manufacturer code on it, you know, all the Schumacher transformers had that. The transformers that Vox used did not do that. Instead, they would have literally a like sticker that was put on, and that would tell you what kind of transformer it was, at least the brand of the transformer. But those, you know, can be lost with time. So unfortunately, it makes it kind of hard to tell what you've got. So we'll come back to this, but the power transformer itself is more clear because it does still have the sticker. Let me bend this a little bit to show you guys. So hopefully you can see that Lemark Electronics Limited Hayward's Heath. So when I saw that, I went, I don't know a ton about vintage Voxes, but I know the main food groups of transformers these would come with. You have the Woden, the Haddon, the Albion, the Parmeco, I believe are the primary ones. And some of them are easy to identify. The Wodens have, you know, kind of an ink stamp that says Woden on them. They look a bit different and are colored a bit different. And the Albions and the Haddons, those will have, like I mentioned, just kind of that little tape signifier. And this is something that I did not recognize. So I looked it up. not a ton of details about these, but really from what I can tell, these were from the late 60s, early 70s AC30s. So they changed, the manufacturer of these changed their name to Laymark, and this was from the era. So this is a Vox AC30 correct power transformer, but it's from a later amp. So this would be 63 era, roughly, and this would be probably the very beginning of the 70s. So that was obviously a big ding in the value there, and unfortunate. And the seller did not know that. So I kind of explained that to him and showed him some photos and whatnot. Then we go over here to the output transformer. Now this one is much more difficult because it has no sticker on it anymore, and there's no identifier, no code or anything on it to tell me what it is. So basically, I took a gamble on this amp, hoping that this was the original output transformer, but I have no idea. So I looked through as many photos as I could online after purchasing the amp, and trying to dig up any clues to determine, is this an original or is this a replacement? And I believe now at this point, looking at it in person and comparing to some photos, I believe this is an Albion output transformer. Now I could be wrong, and I am very open to you guys correcting me, for all of you experts there, but I'm going to show you kind of why I think that. And I'll pull up a reverb listing of one that I found that sold that looks identical as kind of a support for my theory. But once again, please let me know if you guys think differently or have proof otherwise. So let me grab that listing real quick on my phone. So here's the listing of the Albion output transformer. Now, a couple things I want to note. The first is how it bends over. You can see the metal folds over. You can see that. The metal folds over the edge. This does that. Then we can see the mounting screws. Those are the same mounting screws on both this side as well as the sides here. And then the overall shape of it, all the other output transformers have a slightly different shape to them. And this one looks like it's bang on. So this is again an Albion output transformer. Now what I don't know are the colors of the leads and what it looks like on the other side. So that's still to be determined, although I did see photos of the other side and it does not look like it's still retaining its sticker. However, you can see the sticker is lifting up and they come apart. So that's not a deal breaker, but either way, that's kind of my leading theory of what this is. So I'm going to try and hold it up so you guys can see it a bit better, but obviously it's quite heavy, so bear with me here. So that's my running theory, but I have no idea. And I did buffer in the price I paid on the chance that it was not the factory output transformer and both were replaced. So just keep that in mind. It would obviously be a bummer, but I wouldn't be financially ruined if that were the case. Now, I will also say that I did play the amp, like I mentioned before, on the Brilliant channel, and it sounded awesome. It sounded incredibly good. So if these are replacements, and this we know is a Vox AC30 power transformer just from slightly later, they're great parts. They sound great. They look the part. I mean, this looks as old as the rest of the amp. It's got the same kind of patina, but as does this. So these are old parts and they sounded very good. So with relatively crappy tubes. So overall, again, I'm encouraged, but we really won't know until we flip it over. And even still, we might not know 100%. And I am definitely aware of that. So now the last thing, it's extremely late, but the last thing we got to do is take off this backer board and see what's left on the other side. So let's go ahead and do that now. So to protect the knobs in case they're original, get a close up of those. We're going to go ahead and remove them all. That way when we put the chassis back over, we're not potentially going to smash them. All right, success. We have nothing hitting on the other side. So now we can go ahead and remove these bolts. Now these two, actually they all are different. No, these two are the same. And then these two are different. So, and then this was the missing one where the Topboost card should be held on. So we'll make a note for that. And then we see the first identifier marking, looks like 1-3 on there. All right, moment of truth. What do we got on the other side? Here goes the Topboost card. All right, let's see what we're working with. So this is the power transformer. This is the output transformer. I see what looks like DP right there. And this has some kind of weird marking on it, but it does not have a sticker on the back. Now let's go ahead and reference the original to see if the colors line up. Green, blue, black, green, blue, black. And then it's got 2 yellow and 1 red, 2 yellow and 1 red. So it is missing the sticker back here, but everything else seems to point to it being the Albion. The exterior to me looks identical, and these are the same. So I don't know, but as far as I can tell, based off of my limited knowledge so far, I think this is probably original. And then obviously this looks very different and is very clearly not original, but still, again, a vintage Vox AC30 part just from the 70s. Now looking in here, we've got a 32 microfarad 350 volt cap. We've got a resistor, looks like. It's a 22K. And then we've got 2 450 volt. Looks like 2 450 volt 33 microfarad caps here. Looks like a British made 22 microfarad cap there. Looks like a resistor. This, let's see. So it makes me think, okay, because I only see one connector here. These two are undone. So this is just in here for show, and I think that's what these are doing, is kind of taking the place of the can cap in here. So the can cap is a RS3232. RS, I think that might be the original. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that. I will get a close up so you guys can see that. And then over here, it looks like we've got some replaced resistors. All of these with the blue look like they were replaced. You can see they were kind of J-hooked on. The red ones look original to me. An added tag board, a couple added tag boards it looks like. And yeah, everything actually looks overall pretty good. Nothing is jumping out to me immediately as like horrific. It doesn't look like it was mangled, which was really important to me. You know, I said it was a basket case at the beginning, and it is in part, but it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be honest. So that's encouraging. Now I've got a ton of research to do, you know, to figure out what's what and really learn the vintage Vox world, because I've never worked on one before. But overall, things look pretty straightforward here. And once I have the schematic out and the layout, I'll be able to dig into this a bit deeper. But I'm going to go ahead and end here. It's now 1 in the morning and I'm exhausted. So we're going to stop here and circle back. I've got a few other projects I'm working on concurrently with this one. So, you know, stay tuned and subscribe. And I will also make a playlist for this Vox AC30 project, so you guys can keep up with that if you would like. But that'll do it for tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so excited to get this project going. And yeah, I can't wait to take you guys along for the ride with me. So until next time, see ya. I completely forgot to try and show you guys what's inside this before finishing up this episode. So we're gonna go ahead and take it off now. It's extremely sealed. There we go. It is a tight fit. So you can see here the extra thick middle layer that kind of seals the cab up. And then the speakers, they are two Alnico Silvers. You can see this one still has a sticker on it and it says JMI Vox. But you'll notice the tabs for the connections are not on the chassis itself. They're on these little boards. And that indicates that these speakers are later. So these would be, if I understand correctly, I think late 60s would be the earliest that those show up. And then you'll also notice that one cone, this one over here, looks much newer than this cone, which looks more aged. And they've got some weird, markings on them. I don't know what that means. A-135. This one says 610-43. No idea what that means. Maybe you guys can tell me. And then they do have the Made in England little stamp there. This one has it as well, just on the bottom. Kind of hard to see. And 8 ohm, you can see on the tab there. So I'm going to see if I can get an angle to show you guys the speaker cone codes on them. And hopefully we can kind of determine what they are exactly. But obviously they are silver bells, which would not have come with the copper top amps anyways, because those would have come, I believe 64 is the first year that those started showing up. So not right for the amp, but still cool speakers nonetheless. And yeah, the biggest thing is just the cones. So this is the Recone one. You can see a code of 444. That is I believe a Celestian code, but I don't know what it means exactly, so I have to look that up. But this one was very obviously a Recone, so that does not surprise me. And it sounded great, the cab, so whatever it is, it sounded good. Now let's go ahead and try and find the code on the other speaker. Switching over to my phone here because I can't get the camera to reach in the right spot to be able to show you guys. Because the speaker cone code is all the way down here. And it is, I don't even know if you'll be able to pick it up on the camera, but on my phone, if I can, I'll show it on the phone. It is 41102-003, which is a Pulsonic cone code. So that would lead me to believe that this is the original cone in this speaker, a Pulsonic cone, which would put it at the latest, I think 73, 74, I think is the latest that those came. And but definitely vintage correct for a silver speaker. So that's good. That seems to be an original one. And then this one has a Recone, and together they sounded really, really good, which is great. So that's the cab itself. You can see there's no really other markings anywhere inside of the cab, except for on the very top. But just looks like gibberish. I can't really tell what that is. So yeah, looks really good. There's one last thing I want to show you guys of this cab, and that's the feet on it. So I'm going to flip it over to show you that. Real quick, I wanted to test what ohm rating these speakers are together. So let's go ahead and test it. So it's like 14 ohms. So this is a 16 ohm pair, and they have it wired with the positive lead from this speaker running all the way to the jack, and then the negative lead going to this speaker's terminal here, and then this speaker's positive terminal is then running to the jack on the other side. So very interesting. Now let's go ahead and look at the feet. And the last thing I want to show are the feet on this. So it's got more traditional feet here, but then it's got these wild wheel feet right here. I've never seen anything like it. They are absolutely terrible. They obviously would catch on anything. Super small. And yeah, I have no idea if that's original or not. I've never seen that before, but pretty cool. I mean, it's got flathead screws on it, which tells me it's most likely old. Could be original. Maybe that is a Vox thing. But we will definitely be swapping those for more traditional, thicker rubber feet to be a bit more secure. But there you go. That is the Vox AC30 Super Twin Cab.